This is HOA boardroom battles, and yes, the tow truck really showed up. I am done being nice, move the snow or lose the car. That was the first thing Julie Stewart yelled at me when I stepped out my front door with a small bucket of ice melt in one hand and my phone in the other. She was standing in the middle of my driveway, her white parka bright against the gray sky, a pair of rubber gloves snapping onto her hands like she was about to perform surgery. The snow was still falling, fat flakes piling up on the hood of my van, and she was pointing at a driveway marker stake I had put in 2 days ago to keep the plow from taking out my mailbox post. I live in Madison, Wisconsin, in a neighborhood called Harborview Cold Front, which is one of those communities where certain homes get special treatment and everyone knows it. I work as a restaurant supply rep, which means I drive a branded van with a company logo on the side, and I keep odd hours because half my clients are open until midnight. The Harborview Cold Front HOA has rules about everything, but the winter rules are the worst. Julie is the vendor coordinator, which means she controls every snow contractor, every plow route, every inspection crew, and every fine that comes with it. She has been after me since October, when I asked for a copy of the winter policy and she told me it was secret and I would find out when I violated it. "You do not shovel to my standard, you pay to my standard." That is what she said then, standing in front of the clubhouse with a winter patrol log sheet tucked under her arm, and she has said it at least twice since. The problem is, her standard changes every time it snows. Last week she said I had to clear my driveway within 12 hours of snowfall. 2 days ago she said it was 8 hours. This morning she sent me an email at 6 in the morning saying it was now 4 hours and I was already in violation because the snow started at 2. "I need this driveway cleared now," Julie said, stepping closer. "I have a vendor on standby and I will bill you the emergency rate unless you fix this right now." She gestured at the stake like it was a weapon. "That is an unapproved yard sign. Remove it or I am citing you for visual pollution." "It is a reflective stake," I said. "It is so the plow does not destroy my mailbox. I have already replaced it twice this winter." "I do not care what it is for," Julie snapped. "It is not approved. You have 30 minutes to remove it and clear this driveway to pavement, or I am sending the crew and charging your ledger." She pulled out her phone and held it up like she was about to make the call. "And just so you know, I can fine you daily until the snow melts and you cry." I felt my jaw tighten. That was the second time she had said that line, and I knew it was going to come back to haunt her. I am trying to keep my record clean because of background checks at work. My company does spot audits on drivers, and any legal trouble or liens show up in the system. If Julie puts a lien on my property, I could lose my job. She knows that because I told the board at a meeting in November, and ever since then she has been escalating. I stared at the violation letter she shoved into my hand, the one she had printed and brought with her, and I smiled, because it proved exactly what I suspected. The letter had today's date, but the violation code referenced a policy update that was not supposed to take effect until next month. Julie had dated it wrong, and that meant she was enforcing rules that did not exist yet. I folded the letter carefully and put it in my coat pocket. "I will take care of it," I said, "but I need to see the updated winter policy first. You said it was secret, but if you are enforcing it, you have to provide a copy." Julie's face went red. "You do not get to make demands," she said. "You get to comply." She turned and walked toward the street, her boots leaving deep prints in the snow. "You have 30 minutes. After that, the truck comes and you pay." I watched her go, then pulled out my phone and opened my contacts. I needed help, and I knew exactly who to call. 6 months ago, I met a local journalist named Megan Torres at a city council meeting. She covers municipal issues and HOA abuse cases, and she had given me her card after I mentioned the Harborview Cold Front enforcement tactics. I texted her, "Julie just threatened to tow my van over a driveway stake. She is enforcing a policy that does not exist yet. Do you have time to talk?" Megan replied in under a minute. "Call me now. Bring the letter." I called her while I walked back inside to grab my laptop. Megan answered on the first ring and I explained the situation. She told me to photograph the letter, check the HOA portal for the enforcement ledger, and pull any records I had showing the policy timeline. She also told me what proof matters and what does not. The key is the paper trail, she said. If she is enforcing a rule before it is official, that is a procedural violation. If she is targeting you personally, you need evidence of intent. Do you have anything like that? I thought about it. I had emails where Julie used my name specifically in enforcement memos. I had meeting minutes where she called me out for asking too many questions. And I had something else. Something I had recorded 3 weeks ago when I confronted her in the clubhouse parking lot. She had admitted on tape that she wanted to make an example of me because I kept challenging her vendor contracts. I had not told anyone about the recording yet because I was waiting for the right moment to use it. I might have something, I said, but I need to organize it first. Do it fast, Megan said. If she is sending a tow truck, you do not have much time. I hung up and opened my laptop at the kitchen table. The HOA portal was slow to load, and when it finally came up, I saw a message at the top of the screen. System maintenance in progress. Access restricted. That was convenient. I tried to log in anyway and got an error code. I tried again. Same error. I checked my email and saw a notice from the HOA management company sent 10 minutes ago. Due to scheduled maintenance, the resident portal will be unavailable until further notice. We apologize for the inconvenience. That was not maintenance. That was a gate access glitch that started the exact moment I pushed back. Julie had locked me out of the system so I could not pull records or check the ledger. I took a screenshot of the error message and texted it to Megan. She replied immediately, "That is retaliation. Document everything." I grabbed my coat and went back outside. The snow was falling harder now, and I could see a plow truck making its way down the street, spraying slush onto the curbs. The driver slowed down when he got to my driveway, and I saw him glance at the marker stake, then keep going. A few seconds later, a second truck pulled up behind him. This one was not a plow. It was a flatbed tow truck with a winch cable stretched tight across the frame, and Julie was standing next to it, talking to the driver. I walked down the driveway toward them, my boots slipping on the ice. Julie saw me coming and smiled. "Too late," she said. "The truck is here. You had your chance." The tow driver opened his door and stepped out. He was a heavy-set guy in a reflective vest, and he looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am, I need to see the authorization paperwork before I hook up," he said to Julie. "I have it right here," Julie said, pulling a clipboard from under her arm. She handed him a single sheet of paper. "This resident is in violation of snow clearance standards and has refused to comply. The HOA has authorized emergency removal and billing." The driver looked at the paper, then looked at me. "Is this your vehicle, sir?" "Yes," I said, "and there is no violation. She is enforcing a policy that is not in effect yet." I pulled out the violation letter and showed it to him. "Look at the date on this. The rule she is citing does not start until next month." The driver frowned and looked at Julie. "Is that true?" Julie's face went red again. "That is irrelevant," she said. "The resident has a history of non-compliance, and this is a safety issue. The driveway is a hazard." I pulled out my phone and opened the photos I had taken earlier. I had a third-party inspection report from a private snow removal company I had hired last week to document my driveway condition. The inspector had measured the snow depth, checked the ice coverage, and written a 2-page report proving compliance with the county winter maintenance standards. The report also called out the HOA's misread standard, pointing out that their 4-hour rule was not supported by any municipal code and was likely unenforceable. I handed my phone to the tow driver. "This is an independent inspection from last week," I said. "It shows my driveway meets all county standards. She is making up her own rules and threatening to charge me for it." The driver read the report, his frown deepening. He looked at Julie. "Ma'am, I cannot tow a vehicle based on a rule that is not enforceable. If the county says this driveway is safe, I am not touching it." Julie's smile vanished. "You work for the HOA," she said. "I am telling you to tow it." "I work for a towing company," the driver said. The HOA is a client, but I am not breaking the law for you. If this guy has proof his driveway is compliant, I am leaving. He handed my phone back to me, then climbed into his truck. Sorry, man, he said to me through the open window. I do not get paid enough to deal with this. The truck pulled away, leaving Julie standing in the street. She turned to face me, her expression venomous. You think you are clever, she said, but this is not over. I am filing a formal complaint with the board, and I am escalating this to a hearing. You are going to pay for every minute of my time you wasted today. She walked back toward her car, which was parked 2 houses down, and I stood there in the snow trying to process what had just happened. I had won this round, but I knew it was going to get worse. Julie does not back down, and she has the full weight of the HOA behind her. I needed a plan, and I needed it fast. I went back inside and called Megan again. She answered immediately. How did it go? The tow driver refused to take my van, I said. I showed him the inspection report, and he said he was not breaking the law for the HOA. Good, Megan said. That is your first win. Now you need to go on offense. File a complaint with the HOA management company and demand access to the portal. If they locked you out as retaliation, that is a violation of your resident rights. Also, request copies of all enforcement records related to your property. They have to provide them within a reasonable time frame. What if they refuse? Then you escalate, Megan said. File a state procedure complaint with the Wisconsin Department of Financial Institutions. They regulate HOAs in this state, and they do not like it when boards play games with records access. It takes time, but it puts pressure on them. I thanked her and hung up, then opened my email and started drafting a formal complaint to the management company. I kept it short and factual. I was locked out of the portal immediately after challenging an enforcement action. I was being charged under a rule that was not yet in effect, and I was requesting immediate access plus copies of all related records. I attached the violation letter, the inspection report, and the screenshot of the portal error. I hit send and sat back, waiting. 20 minutes later, I got a reply. It was not from the management company, it was from Julie, sent from her personal email. Subject line, records request denial. The body of the email was 3 sentences. Your request for records is denied pending resolution of your open violations. Per HOA policy, residents with outstanding compliance issues are not entitled to records access until all issues are resolved. If you wish to appeal, you may submit a written request to the board and wait 30 days for a response. I read it twice, then forwarded it to Megan with a note. She just denied my records request and told me I have to wait 30 days. Is that legal? Megan called me instead of texting. No, she said flatly. That is not legal. The Wisconsin Condominium Ownership Act and the Non-Stock Corporation Act both require HOAs to provide records to residents within a reasonable time, usually 10 business days. They cannot deny access based on open violations. That is retaliation, and it is a clear procedural violation. Forward me that email. I am going to write this up. I felt a knot loosen in my chest. For the first time all day, I had something that felt like leverage, but I also knew this was just the beginning. Julie was not going to stop, and the board was not going to rein her in unless I forced them to. I needed to keep building the case, and I needed to move fast. If you are enjoying this story, hit the like button and subscribe for more HOA drama and satisfying payback stories. The snow squall rolled in around 2 in the afternoon, turning the sky dark gray and dropping visibility to almost nothing within an hour. I was standing at my front window, watching the snow pile up on the street when I saw Julie's car pull into the neighborhood again. She parked in front of my house, got out and walked up to my front porch with a clipboard and a man in a reflective vest following behind her. I opened the door before she could knock. This is an inspection, Julie said. We are here to document the ongoing hazard on your property. The man behind her looked cold and miserable. He was holding a camera and a tape measure, and he did not make eye contact with me. I did not recognize him, but I assumed he was one of Julie's vendors. I do not consent to an inspection, I said. I have already provided proof of compliance. You have no legal grounds to be here. Julie smiled. We do not need your consent, she said. This is HOA property, and we have the right to inspect for safety violations. If you interfere, I will call the police and have you removed. I stepped back and let them onto the porch, but I kept my phone in my hand recording. Julie directed the man to take photos of my driveway, the marker stake, the snow depth, and the edges of the walkway. She narrated each photo like she was building a court case. Document the uneven surface here, she said. Document the ice accumulation near the curb. Document the unapproved signage obstructing the sightline. The man took the photos without speaking. When he was done, Julie handed me a new violation letter. This one was 3 pages long and listed 6 separate code violations, including failure to maintain a safe driveway, installation of unapproved signage, obstruction of snow removal operations, failure to respond to HOA directives, interference with vendor operations, and creating a public nuisance. The fines totaled $800, and there was a note at the bottom: fines will accrue daily until all violations are cured. Failure to comply within 72 hours will result in a lien on your property. I read the letter while Julie stood there watching me. When I looked up, she was smiling again. You do not shovel to my standard, you pay to my standard, she said. And your standard is about to cost you a lot more than $800. She turned and walked back to her car, the vendor trailing behind her. I watched them drive away, then went back inside and called Megan. She answered on the second ring, and I explained what had just happened. She was quiet for a moment, then said, "They are trying to bury you in fines so you cannot fight back. That is a classic intimidation tactic. The good news is, they are making mistakes. Every violation letter, every email, every interaction where they refuse to follow procedure is evidence. You are building a case whether they know it or not." "What do I do now?" I asked. "You file that state complaint," Megan said. "Tonight. Do not wait." The Department of Financial Institutions has an online portal for HOA complaints. It is free, it is fast, and it puts the HOA on notice that they are under scrutiny. Also, send a certified letter to the board president demanding a hearing and requesting copies of all meeting minutes, enforcement policies, and vendor contracts related to snow removal. Make them respond in writing. I spent the next 2 hours drafting the state complaint. The form was straightforward. Describe the issue, provide supporting documents, explain what remedy you are seeking. I attached the violation letters, the email denying records access, the screenshots of the portal lockout, and the third-party inspection report. In the remedy section, I wrote, I am requesting that the HOA be required to provide full records access, rescind all fines issued under unenforced policies, and cease retaliatory enforcement actions against my property. I submitted the complaint at 8 in the evening and got an automated confirmation email. The email said the department would review the complaint within 10 business days and contact the HOA for a response. It was not fast, but it was a start. The next morning, I woke up to find a plow berm blocking the end of my driveway. It was not a normal berm. It was a wall of packed snow and ice at least 4 feet high and 6 feet wide, running from the curb all the way across the apron. The plow had clearly dumped it there on purpose, because every other driveway on the street had a gap. I stood there in my coat and boots, staring at the berm, and I knew exactly who was responsible. I pulled out my phone and took photos from every angle, then called the City Public Works Department. The woman who answered sounded tired. "Public Works, how can I help you?" "I have a plow berm blocking my driveway," I said. "It is over 4 feet high and it was clearly placed there on purpose. Every other driveway on my street has a gap except mine." "What is your address?" she asked. I gave it to her, and I heard her typing. "Okay, I see your street on the route map. The plow came through at about 5 this morning. I cannot tell you why your driveway was blocked, but if it is a safety issue, you can file a complaint with the plow contractor." "Who is the contractor?" I asked. She gave me a name and a phone number, and I recognized it immediately. It was the same company Julie used for HOA snow removal. I thanked her and hung up, then called the contractor. A man answered, and I explained the situation. He listened, then said, "I will have to check with the route supervisor. Can I call you back?" I gave him my number and waited. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was not the contractor. It was Julie. "I heard you called the plow company," she said. "That was a mistake. The contractor reports to me and I have already told him not to touch your driveway until you pay your fines. You want the berm moved? You pay up. Otherwise, you can shovel it yourself." "You are interfering with a public snow route," I said. "That is illegal." Julie laughed. "Prove it," she said, and hung up. I stood there with the phone in my hand, trying to decide what to do next. The snow squall was still going and visibility was getting worse. I had maybe an hour before the roads became completely impassable. I needed to move that berm, and I needed to do it myself because no one else was going to help me. I went into the garage and grabbed a shovel, then spent the next 45 minutes hacking at the berm. The snow was packed hard, almost like concrete, and every shovelful felt like it weighed 50 pounds. My back was screaming, my hands were numb, and I was barely halfway through when I heard a truck pull up behind me. I turned around and saw a snow contractor truck with a plow blade on the front. The driver got out and walked over to me. "You the guy with the blocked driveway?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Julie told me not to touch it," he said, "but I just got a call from my supervisor, and he told me to clear it. Apparently, someone filed a complaint with the city, and the city called us and said if we do not fix it, they are pulling our contract." I felt a surge of relief. "Who filed the complaint?" I asked. "I do not know," the driver said, "but whoever it was, they knew what they were doing. The city does not mess around when it comes to blocked driveways on plow routes. If we leave it, we get fined." He climbed back into his truck and spent the next 5 minutes pushing the berm off to the side, clearing the apron completely. When he was done, he rolled down his window and said, "You should know, Julie is not happy. She called my supervisor and tried to get me pulled off the route. My supervisor told her to pound sand." I thanked him, and he drove off. I stood there in the snow, breathing hard, and I realized something. I was starting to win. Not because I was smarter or tougher, but because Julie was making mistakes. She was escalating too fast, pushing too hard, and leaving a trail of evidence that even her own contractors could not ignore. But I also knew it was not over. Julie does not give up, and she had more tools in her kit. I needed to keep pressing, and I needed to be ready for whatever came next. That afternoon, I got a text from Megan. She had written up a story about the HOA's winter enforcement tactics and posted it on her blog. The headline was, "Harborview Cold Front HOA accused of retaliatory snow fines and records denial." The article included quotes from me, copies of the violation letters, and a breakdown of the procedural violations. She also mentioned the state complaint and included contact information for the Department of Financial Institutions. Within an hour, the post had dozens of shares, and I started getting messages from other residents in the neighborhood saying they had experienced similar issues. One message stood out. It was from a man named Derek who lived 3 streets over. He said Julie had targeted his snow contractor last winter, threatening to revoke his vendor access unless he stopped servicing Derek's property. Derek had ended up paying double because he had to hire an out-of-network contractor who did not have HOA approval. He said he had emails and text messages proving Julie's threats, and he was willing to share them if it would help. I called him immediately, and we talked for 20 minutes. Derek was angry, articulate, and organized. He had kept every email, every invoice, and every violation notice from the past 2 years. He also told me something I did not know. Julie had a list. A target list of residents she considered troublemakers, and she used the winter enforcement rules to harass them into compliance or force them to sell. Derek said he had seen the list once, during a board meeting where Julie accidentally left her laptop open. His name was on it, and so was mine. Do you remember what else was on that list? I asked. Yeah, Derek said. There were maybe 15 names total. Some of them have already moved. A couple of them are still fighting. But the thing that stuck with me was the notes next to each name. Julie had written little summaries, like reasons why she was targeting each person. Next to your name, it said, asks too many questions. Challenges vendor contracts. Needs to be made an example. I felt my stomach drop. That was it. That was the proof I needed. If I could get a copy of that list, or even just testimony from Derek about what he saw, I could prove Julie's intent. I could show that the enforcement actions were not about safety or compliance. They were personal, targeted, and retaliatory. Can you testify to that? I asked. Absolutely, Derek said. I am done playing nice with these people. If you are taking this to a hearing or a lawsuit, count me in. I thanked him and hung up, then texted Megan with an update. She replied immediately, that is huge. Get Derek to write a statement and send it to you in an email so you have a time-stamped record. Also, see if he can get any other residents on that list to come forward. The more witnesses you have, the harder it is for the board to ignore. Over the next 2 days, I reached out to every name Derek remembered from the list. 3 of them responded. One was a woman named Linda, who had been fined repeatedly for ice patches on her sidewalk, even though she had hired a contractor to salt twice a day. Another was a man named Greg, who had been cited for snow pile placement, even though the piles were on his own property and nowhere near the street. The third was a couple named Sam and Tina, who had been threatened with a lien after they complained about the HOA's refusal to plow the visitor parking lot. All of them had stories. All of them had documentation. And all of them were willing to go on record. I organized everything into a shared folder and sent the link to Megan. She called me that night. This is a pattern, she said. This is not one rogue enforcer. This is a systemic abuse of power. And the board is either complicit or willfully ignorant. You need to take this to the board president and demand a response. If they do not act, you escalate to the state and the media. I drafted an email to the board president, a man named Tom Caldwell, who had been on the board for 6 years and had a reputation for being a Julie enabler. I kept the email short and direct. I am writing to inform you of a pattern of retaliatory enforcement actions by HOA vendor coordinator Julie Stewart. I have documentation showing that Ms. Stewart maintains a target list of residents she considers troublemakers and uses winter enforcement rules to harass them into compliance. I am requesting an immediate board meeting to address this issue and a formal investigation into Ms. Stewart's conduct. If the board does not respond within 5 business days, I will escalate this matter to the Wisconsin Department of Financial Institutions and the local media. I attached the violation letters, the emails, Derek's statement, and the statements from Linda, Greg, Sam, and Tina. I hit send at midnight and went to bed, knowing I had just set off a bomb. The next morning, I woke up to 12 missed calls and 23 text messages. Most of them were from neighbors asking if I had really sent that email to the board. A few were from reporters who had seen Megan's blog post and wanted to follow up. One was from Tom Caldwell, the board president. His message was terse. Board meeting scheduled for Thursday at 7 p.m. Your presence is required. Do not bring media. Thursday was 2 days away, and I knew I needed to be ready. I called Megan and told her about the meeting. She said she would be there, whether Tom liked it or not. I also called Derek, Linda, Greg, Sam, and Tina and asked if they would come as witnesses. They all agreed. The day before the meeting, I got a call from a blocked number. I answered it, and a woman's voice said, "This is Julie Stewart. I know what you are planning, and I am telling you right now, you are making a huge mistake. If you go to that meeting and make these accusations, I will bury you. I have every email you have ever sent, every complaint you have ever filed, and every violation you have ever committed. I will make sure you lose your house, your job, and your reputation. Do you understand me?" I took a breath, then said, "I am recording this call, Julie, and I am going to play it at the meeting tomorrow night. You just admitted you are targeting me personally, and you just threatened to retaliate if I go public. That is illegal. And you just handed me everything I need to take you down. There was a long silence. Then the line went dead. I saved the recording and sent a copy to Megan, Derek, and my personal email as backup. Then I sat down at my kitchen table and went over my notes one more time. I had the violation letters, the emails, the inspection report, the recording of Julie's threat, the statements from the other residents, and the state complaint confirmation. I had a timeline showing how Julie had escalated her enforcement actions immediately after I started challenging her vendor contracts. And I had the trump card, the audio clip, where Karen admits it is personal and she wants to make an example of me. Thursday night came fast. The board meeting was held in the clubhouse, a small wood-paneled room with folding chairs and a long table at the front. Tom Caldwell sat in the center, flanked by two other board members I did not recognize. Julie was sitting in the front row, her arms crossed, her face pale and tight. The room filled up quickly. Derek, Linda, Greg, Sam, and Tina sat together on the left side. Megan sat in the back with a notebook and a recorder. A few other residents I did not know filed in and took seats, their expressions curious or nervous. By the time Tom called the meeting to order, there were at least 30 people in the room. Tom started by reading a prepared statement about the purpose of the meeting, then turned to me. You requested this meeting to address concerns about enforcement actions. You have 10 minutes to present your case. I stood up and walked to the front of the room. I did not use notes. I had practiced this too many times to need them. I started by summarizing the timeline, the secret winter policy, the escalating fines, the portal lockout, the records denial, the plow berm, Julie's threat on the phone. I presented each piece of evidence as a slide on my laptop, projected onto the wall so everyone could see it. I played the recording of Julie threatening me. I read the statements from Derek, Linda, Greg, Sam, and Tina. And then I deployed the trump card. I have one more piece of evidence, I said. 3 weeks ago, I confronted Julie in the clubhouse parking lot about her enforcement tactics. She admitted on tape that she was targeting me personally because I challenged her vendor contracts. She said she wanted to make an example of me so other residents would stop asking questions. I played the recording. The room went silent. Julie's voice was clear and unmistakable. You think you can just challenge my contracts and get away with it? I am making an example of you. Everyone in this neighborhood needs to know that if you cross me, you pay. When the recording ended, I looked at Tom. This is not about snow removal, I said. This is about retaliation. Julie Stewart has abused her authority as vendor coordinator to target residents she considers troublemakers. She has violated HOA procedure, denied records access, and threatened residents with illegal fines and liens. I am asking the board to remove her from her position, rescind all fines issued under her enforcement campaign, and conduct a full audit of her vendor contracts. Julie stood up, her face red, her voice shaking. That recording is fake, she said. He edited it. He is lying. It is timestamped, I said, and I have the original file with metadata. You can verify it yourself. Tom held up a hand. Julie, sit down. We will address this. Julie sat, but her hands were trembling. A board member I did not know leaned over and whispered something to Tom. He nodded, then looked at me. We are going to take a 15-minute recess to review the evidence. Please wait outside. The room emptied slowly. Megan caught up with me in the hallway. That was perfect, she said. You gave them no choice. If they do not act, they are admitting they condone retaliation. 15 minutes later, we were called back in. Tom stood at the front of the room, his expression grim. After reviewing the evidence, the board has decided to take immediate action. Effective tonight, Julie Stewart is removed from her position as vendor coordinator and stripped of access to the portal admin tools. All fines issued under her enforcement campaign will be rescinded, and the ledger entries will be voided. We will also be conducting a full audit of all vendor contracts and enforcement actions over the past 2 years. Julie stood up, her face white. You cannot do this, she said. I was following policy. You were not following policy, Tom said. You were abusing your authority. and you are lucky we are not pursuing legal action." Julie grabbed her coat and stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. The room erupted in applause, and I felt my knees go weak. It was over. I had won. 2 weeks later, I got a letter from the Wisconsin Department of Financial Institutions confirming that they had opened a formal investigation into Harborview Coldfront HOA. The city also sent a letter warning the HOA to stop interfering with snow routes, and the board publicly reversed Julie's winter enforcement policy to avoid municipal fines. Julie resigned from the board entirely and moved out of the neighborhood 3 months later. Derek, Linda, Greg, Sam, and Tina all got their fines rescinded and received written apologies from the board. Megan's blog post went viral, and several other HOAs in Wisconsin reached out to her, asking for advice on how to handle enforcement abuse. As for me, I kept my job, my house, and my clean record, and every time it snows now, I clear my driveway on my own schedule, with no fear of Julie showing up with a clipboard and a vendetta. Glad you could make it to the end.